a member of British Parliament for 12 years, and co-founded Vote Leave, the official campaign that won the Brexit referendum. He's the author of several books. He tweets at Douglas Carswell. Douglas, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
And it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
So first of all, welcome to our shores. And I got to say, it feels like you're arriving at a rather inauspicious time in American history. While the economy seems to be finally recovering as COVID lets up, that is not stopping the current government from blowing out spending to an unprecedented extent and radically reshifting the thinking of how government and the individual ought to interact. As somebody who's just arrived, what do you make of it?
Well, it's wonderful to be here, but I think you're right. America is at a critical juncture. Either America retains American exceptionalism, which is the thing that since its founding has made America unlike any other country and made America the most successful republic to have ever existed. Or, if the radical left get their way in DC, they reduce America to being just another overtaxed, overregulated country. And America becomes a sort of a North American version of France, or, heaven help us, a North American version of Belgium. And if that happens, it's not just going to be a catastrophe for hundreds of millions of Americans. I think it will be a disaster for humankind. The United States has been the world's number one power for 120 years. And it's been, by and large, an extraordinary 120 years, the best 120 years of human existence. Human progress has been achieved, I would argue, by American hegemony. And if America becomes just another country, the lights go out not just in America, the lights will go out in the world.
So one of the things that you mentioned there, you compared the United States to France and Belgium, and it is true that those economies are not capable of driving a global economy, obviously, while the United States' global economy, running of the global economy really has. There's another element here, which is that even France is starting to reject some of the crazy theories that have become mainstream in the United States. Started to see French politicians say they don't want any of the woke identity politics stuff the United States is pushing infused into European life. It's amazing how the left in the United States that so admires the Europeans is perfectly willing to cram down an even more radical version of identity politics that the Europeans reject.
It's true. If you're doing something that even France, even French intellectuals say is extreme and way off, you, I think, need to stop and think what it is you're doing. Look, the essence of modernity, the essence of civilization, is that we judge people not on the basis of immutable characteristics. Pre-modern societies always did that. In pre-modern societies in the world, in pre-modern times, you were judged on the basis of immutable characteristics. The rank you were born to in society, your race, your ethnicity, your gender, and so on and so forth. One of the transformative things about the Enlightenment on both sides of the Atlantic is this idea that you judge people not on the basis of immutable characteristics, but as Martin Luther King so beautifully put it, on the content of someone's character. What the radical left in America is doing in the name of progressivism is something deeply regressive. They're actually going back to a pre-modern notion that you should judge people on the basis of immutable characteristics. It's not just profoundly un-American, it's pre-modern and, frankly, anti-civilization. And if even France gets this, boy, people in some of those liberal arts colleges need to wake up and recognize what they're doing. It is not progressive, it is regressive.
We're speaking with Douglas Carswell. He's president and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. So, Douglas, do you think there's a prospect for American recovery? Sometimes it's easier for people who are coming from the outside to see this than people on the inside. Here, it seems like we may be in sort of an inevitable slow slide into European-style progressivism, but again, without the subsidy of America to hold that up. Europe had the privilege of having the United States basically hold up the world economy and much of their defense budget for half a century. Nobody's going to be holding up the foundations here if the United States goes. Do you think that there's a prospect for American recovery in the offing here?
Absolutely. No one ever prospered by betting against the United States, and I think the United States can recover. But it's going to take a conscious effort by, listen to your show, Ben, people like you and people like me and right-thinking people across America to recover. Look, things must have seemed pretty grim in the 1970s. In the 1970s, people said that America faced inevitable decline. They said that Japan was going to eclipse the United States. They said that America would inevitably fail against the Soviet threat. Think how big a challenge it must have seemed to Reagan and his generation. They overcame that, and they revived and recovered the United States' fortunes because of this self-belief, this self-confidence. We need to rediscover this, and we can rediscover this. This intersectionalist dogma is sapping America's confidence. In the 3 months I've been here, I've been so struck at how awful this intersectionalist, radical woke agenda has been at sapping America's confidence. Incidentally, the bad guys in Peking, Beijing, and Moscow love this idea of American weakness. It is dividing America. America is a country that, if America was built on hatred and racism, why is it that people from every color, every creed, and every culture and country want to come here? It's profoundly damaging to America if we allow this intersectionalist agenda any further traction. But we can recover. The United States, I think, will recover, but it will only recover if it rediscovers its self-confidence and faces down this absurd and nonsensical and pre-modern creed that pits Americans against Americans.
That's Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. You can follow all of his work at Douglas Carswell on Twitter. Douglas, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Ben. It's wonderful.
Alrighty, folks. Well, we have reached the end of this week's broadcast, but fear not, we'll be back next week. Now,